Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me for Kineo Totara office hours. Today what we are going to be talking about is objectives in learning plans. We have talked a little bit about learning plans in the past, but we've never really talked about them in any great detail. So we're going to go into learning plans a little bit more this week and next week. Next week we're going to talk about how you can integrate objectives from learning plans into appraisals. So we'll talk about that as well. So be sure to join me for that one or catch it next time. So my name is Taylor Craig. I am the platforms consultant here at Kineo. My job entails working with all of our new clients, existing clients, anyone who is implementing something new, adding a new customization, just coming on board for the first time. I basically just train you. I train on core functionality. I train on custom functionality. I also typically am the person who will write your administration guides for any customizations that you have done. So that's typically what I do. I wear quite a few hats, but really enjoy it here at Kineo and know that you're in good hands with everyone here. So let's talk a little bit about what objectives are, and then I will show you an example, and then I'll show you how to set it up. So objectives essentially are items that you can place into your learning plan if you're utilizing learning plans to allow yourself to basically set goals for yourself. So let me give you an example of how we use it internally here at Kineo. Every year we have annual reviews, just like I'm sure you probably do as well, and we keep a learning plan inside of an internal Totara instance. In that learning plan, we keep objectives and keep those going with our manager, and we discuss those with her each kind of along the way, all the way throughout the year, but then we also review those at the end of the year and make sure that we're meeting those objectives. Or if we're not meeting those objectives, what can she do to help us get there to meet those objectives, right? So that's what we utilize those for. That's how we use it here internally, and it's really, speaking from personal experience, it's really nice to look back at the end of the year, sit down with my manager and say, hey, we did all of that. So it's something, it's really nice for internal employee development, and something that you could implement in that sense. So let's take a look at an example. We'll get rid of the PowerPoint and we will jump over. I'm going to show you from a learner's perspective, and I will show you from a staff manager's perspective, and then we'll take a look at it from an administrator's view. So that is my manager. Let me find my learner. I've recently installed a new software for displaying stuff, and sometimes my computer's acting screwy from it. Okay, so I am logged in here as Sharon Cunningham, and she is an employee of Smith & Jones product company. Again, this is my fake company, so this is something to keep in mind. Now, I want you to see here in the alerts block, you see here that her plan annual goals for 2017, it's been approved by Peter Porter. Peter Porter is her manager, her direct report inside of Totara, so on her profile it shows that she reports to him. So how does she access this learning plan? A couple of different ways to access it. She could access it by clicking here. That would give her a link to get there. But typically, sometimes once she's clicked on that, that alert's going to go away because it's no longer relevant and she needs to know a better way to get there. So she can get there by going to her record of learning. And she can go directly to the learning plan itself, so she could come in here and go to Manage Plans if she wanted to and see the learning plan itself, go into Annual Goals, and then manage her objectives. Or I want to show you one other place where she could get to it. Underneath Record of Learning, you'll notice that there is now a tab called Objectives underneath our Record of Learning. If you're not seeing the Objectives tab in your Record of Learning, it's because you don't have any, or you don't have anything relevant that could house an objective. You may have learning plans completely turned off. That's more than likely why you're not seeing it, okay? So keep in mind, in order to use objectives, you have to have learning plans turned on. Those are turned on underneath Advanced Features. So I would go to the Advanced Features, Site Admin, Advanced Features, and then do a Control Find for learning plans. Turn those on, and then at that point you would have the option to do objectives. Okay, so she sees here that she's got an Objectives tab. She sees annual goals. She's able to see that these are approved, and she sees her objectives names. Now, since the learning plan, remember from back a long time ago when we talked about learning plans, we can establish a workflow, essentially, between a manager and a learner. So in this particular case, we have it set up where she actually can add her own objectives. So if she clicks on Annual Goals 2017, that's going to take her to the same place it would if she was over here, okay? And she sees the overview of her learning plan. She sees that the name of the plan is Goals. She sees the description of it, when it starts, when it's expected to be due. She actually has the ability to edit the details for this learning plan. You can turn that off in your learning plan workflow management. She can also add comments that her manager will see. Okay, and we'll go ahead and save that comment. We'll look at that here in a minute when we log in as Peter. So let's take a look at her objectives. So in this particular case, she has it set up where she can actually, we have it set up administratively where she can add new objectives for herself. So she can come in here and say, be more efficient. Okay, and she can give a description, say, hey, I've been having trouble, this is where I would like to improve. She can set her own priority. So she can come in here and say high, low, whatever. She can say that she's currently in progress on this. And then she can add that objective. Okay, now the way this particular one is set up is it is already approved since the entire learning plan is approved. Now the way we do our workflows here at Kineo is when we add our own objectives, if we add our own objectives, at that point then our manager goes in, she reviews them and approves them for us, or gives us additional insight or whatever may need to happen there. So you'll see here she can say in progress, not yet started, or complete. And she can set her own due dates. We also can set our own due dates, our own priority, and indicate our status when we're doing this internally. Okay? Now, if she needs to add additional comments, anything like that, she can click on the objective and she can add in comments. And save it. Okay, so they can actually kind of have a discussion going on about a particular objective if they need that capability. Okay, so let's go back into her objectives. Okay, so you see here now we see one comment and they can click on it. Okay, so that is how objectives are going to appear to a learner. Now she does have the actions column. You might want to remove that column from the workflow. Again, something you can do administratively. So if I jump over here as Peter and I am her manager, I'm going to go ahead and refresh because we did a few things with Sharon and so there's been some work and he's just been sitting there. Okay, so if you take a look underneath his alerts, you'll see that there's quite a few things. He can see here, oh wow, Sharon's really been busy working in her learning plan. He's able to see that she's made a new comment on a particular objective. You'll see she made a new comment on the entire plan. You'll see that she's added a new objective and she's updated one. Okay, so this is something that he will see. Let's go ahead and just click on one of his alerts just so we can see it. You'll notice here it took him directly into the learning plan when he clicked on those alerts. So that's one way a manager can access. I'm going to go back out to my home page just so you can see other ways that he can access. He can go in and view all alerts. He can dismiss all of these at will. Anytime you have the alerts block, you can do that. He can go to the team tab. So yours, it might be called My Team. You may have renamed it to something else because of your organization. So it's the same button essentially. He sees all of his people. He can come in here and he can click on plans underneath whomever he's wanting to see. He sees her objectives. She's got 4 of them. He sees her learning plan as a whole. He can come in here and click on those objectives. He also has the ability to add additional objectives that's going to look exactly the same to him. So he could add new objectives. He could say, you know what, I really feel like you've completed that. So he could complete things for her. He can up priority if he would like to. And then he can also come in here to the comments and he can reply. Okay, so it's just a really nice interactive relationship, allowing them to continue to keep track of things that employees would like to get better at, things that employers think their employees should be better at. Good way to keep track of that and actually see some evidence happening. Now you're going to notice here there's also an area to link evidence. So maybe she went to a seminar on how to be more efficient. Right? So if she did, she could come in here and she could actually link a certificate that maybe she received. She could link a website, whatever, but she could put it in there proving that she has done something to get better at her job or whichever objective it is. Okay, so that is going to be the example of what it looks like. Now let's take a look at how you set all this up administratively, because a lot of this has to be set up administratively. Now, as we know with learning plans, and this is generally an area of heartburn for folks, is that you can't mass assign learning plans. So like you can with programs, with programs you can go in, you can set up a bunch of courses, and then you can say, okay, I want this audience to do this. You can't really do that so much with learning plans. You can make things available to people. And really for this type of learning plan, I suppose you really could kind of do that in bulk. You can make the learning plan already there, but then they have to go in and fill it out. So the area of heartburn for folks is generally that you can't have courses pre-populated to a learning plan. So in this case, we can't have objectives pre-populated. We can send out the shell to a big group of people. So we could say, okay, everybody has to do this, but we can't have objectives pre-populated, okay? So that's where a lot of people kind of go, dang it, right? Because you want to pre-populate some of that stuff sometimes. But in this case, it's really kind of more of a one-on-one type of thing. So as an administrator, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go to Site Administration, Learning Plans. If you are not seeing learning plans listed directly below hierarchies, you need to come up here and go to Advanced Features, search for Learning Plans, and turn it on. You don't have it turned on if you don't see it. Okay, so we can go to Manage Our Templates. You'll see here that I have a few. You may have several in here. It just depends on your particular environment and if you're really using them. A lot of times people aren't really using them, so that's why I want to talk a little bit more about them. So we have our Objectives Learning Plan. That's the one I created the other day. We'll just go into it. Basically, to create one, you name it and save your changes, and then you walk through the steps that we're about to look at. So that's how you would do that. So I'm going to click on the edit icon so we can see everything in here. As with all learning plans, the first tab is always the general tab. You name it, you set an end date. I set the end date to 2050 because I'm going to be using this for quite some time, but you may want to have an objectives learning plan for a certain period of time. Up to you. Underneath my components, this is where I'm going to determine what can be added and removed and all of that good stuff to a learning plan. So in this case, I only have objectives turned on, but if I wanted to, I could allow for programs to be added, I could allow for competencies to be added, I could allow for courses to be added. Now guys, one thing to keep in mind and one thing to remember is the only way to self-enroll in a program would be through a learning plan. So if you have programs turned on here, then people can go in, they can find a learning plan, a program, add it to their learning plan, and they're technically enrolled. That is the only way to do that with core functionality as far as doing that with programs. Okay, so that's just a side note. So you can turn on any of these different things that you want to allow people to add. And then I was mentioning earlier that you can set a custom workflow. So there's several different workflows available, and we've talked about these before in our past learning plan discussions. The one that I'm using is the custom workflow. Personally, it's my preference, mainly because I get a lot more control over stuff. So I'm going to go to my advanced workflow settings. Okay, now you'll see that there are now two new tabs. I have one for the plan as a whole, so what can happen to that plan as a whole, who can do what. And then I have one on the objectives themselves, so how those components are handled. So here I have my plan permissions, so I've got manually by user, can it be marked complete, so who can do that, okay? And then we've got our plan permissions. So earlier I was saying she had the ability, she had like an actions column where she could delete stuff. for the objectives. So on the objectives tab, we should see a delete area. So you'll see here the ability to delete. She is denied the ability to delete her learning plan as a whole. So she can't get rid of the learning plan. But if we look at the objectives tab, underneath, let's see, update objective. It must be this one that's allowing that. So she has the ability to update that. So she shouldn't be able to delete, or should be, based on these settings. Okay, so we have our learner here, we have our manager here. We're able to say who's able to do what. We can say deny, request, approve. Deny, request, approve. Okay. Here's where you can set, if they can set due dates, where if they can set priorities. You can set a particular priority scale if you would like to, and you can set a particular objective scale, which is the complete, in progress, and not yet started. Okay, so that is going to be utilizing objectives via a learning plan in a nutshell. And like I said, next week I'm going to talk about how we can incorporate these objectives into an appraisal. That is the other part of actually what we do here internally at Kineo is once we've kind of gone over all of our objectives and reviewed them, we actually utilize an appraisal to go through and test our performance and discuss that. And we're able to pull those objectives into that appraisal and actually discuss with our manager via an appraisal how we feel we did that year. So that is something that we have to look forward to for next week. And if you have any ideas or suggestions for additional office hours, please go ahead and submit those. You should have gotten a link within the email giving you the ability to do that. Since I'm back in the office, I am checking those again, and I've already gotten a few suggestions that I'm adding to the list. So look forward to those. And anyway, I am going to quit my yammering and turn the floor over to you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to post those to the question box now. I've got it pulled up and ready to go.